Imagine a world where investors can take assets that they own, create new, innovative financial products, fractionalise those and make them available for sale and distribution in a dynamic and real-time way. Imagine a world in which investors can seek out these unique products, compare them in real time, be presented with information about them without having to do expensive and time-consuming due diligence, and then access and acquire these assets and trade in them in a dynamic and real-time way. And imagine all of this happening on a 24/7 basis, low commission rates, and with the ease with which we currently see cryptocurrencies trading on a global basis. Well, at DLA Piper, that is what we imagined 2 years ago. And we looked at the promise of blockchain technology as a means by which this could be delivered in reality. And we wondered, why was it not happening? Why was the security token offering market not a thing that was already kicking off? And we examined all of the friction points and challenges as to why that wasn't currently happening. And we've come up with a solution. Pleased to announce that earlier this month, we've launched TOKO, a new digital asset tokenization, creation, and distribution platform that allows all of the participants in this ecosystem to come together in a way that makes tokenization and fundraising using digital assets a reality, and will allow investors to access these products in a way that hasn't been seen before. So how have we done this? Firstly, we looked at the technology stacks. We examined the existing blockchain technology platforms, their attributes, the features which would enable this to become a reality, and the deficiencies in some case within existing stacks. Our TOKO engine, therefore, is using technology layers that bring the best of the currently available blockchain technologies to bear on the unique challenges of security tokens. And these are very different challenges to what we see in unregulated cryptocurrencies or utility tokens, as they're sometimes called. And this in part is because of the regulations that obviously come along with the buying, trading and dealing with security assets. To this end, we've used a hybrid public and private chain environment. The private chain has been built using the Hyperledger Fabric toolset, which enables the creation of a permissioned control environment. It facilitates private access to people who have qualified as professional investors, that have done the AML, that have done the other checks that are necessary to ensure they have the rights to acquire these regulated assets. But within that private environment, there isn't yet the level of trust that is necessary. With that in mind, we've accessed the Hedera consensus service. Hedera Hashgraph is a next generation distributed ledger technology and graph solution that provides a number of features that we think are essential to the creation of an effective digital asset ecosystem going forward. Not only does it provide the mathematically highest level of consensus that is possible when it comes to a distributed ledger, but it also provides things that currently are not generally available in existing blockchain platforms, such as fair, objectively determinable timestamps, where the algorithm determines which order was put in place at what time, as opposed to having things like miners determining the order of transactions within blocks of transactions. Clearly that's going to be essential for the creation of a fair marketplace. It provides stability, no forking guarantees, and other aspects of transaction finality that are going to again be essential. At the moment, otherwise you may have to wait until you are several blocks deep before you can say, yes, that transaction is now unlikely to be unpicked. Again, not necessarily an issue in cryptocurrencies, but essential for as we move into enterprise grade security token trading issues. So that's the technology layer. The other problem we examined was the complexity of putting all of these things together. You've got a number of regulated players in here. There are regulated dealer brokers, custodians, digital asset exchanges that will provide the secondary market liquidity. And there are lots of players across the world that have been building these solutions. And in every market, there is a different regulatory environment and different licenses required for people in order to perform these activities. So we've been building consortiums of partners to ensure that they are able to access and share information across the different parts of this ecosystem. So we've built consortiums and we now have routes to markets in multiple jurisdictions. these players now have a means in the TOKO platform by which to access and share information, and again have access to the verification processes within the TOKO solution to validate and legitimise transactions as being fair, transparent and verifiable. And this is an essential part of what is going to make this ecosystem a possibility, as opposed to the current situation which involves a fragmentation of all of these different functions. So, the ecosystem layer. We've also been working with regulators in a number of markets. It's fair to say that the security token regulatory frameworks across the world differ country by country, and even within certain countries on a provincial basis as well. And these regulations are continuing to evolve. We've been working with regulators in a number of markets, including the SFC here in Hong Kong, to try and ensure we have a good understanding that we're building legal structures that are effective and fall within the types of requirements that you would expect from our regulators, including investor protection as a cornerstone of all of the regulations that underpin this. Then there are the legal structures. It's been fascinating to work with clients who are interested in doing this to help build legal structures that provide the types of new products that I alluded to at the opening. So whether it's a regulated asset like a piece of real estate, where we structure it in a holdco, where we then have the holdco issuing tokens, either stapled or unstapled, to shares in a way that will allow the tokens themselves to represent the economic interests. What does an investor want when they're investing in a fractional part of a real estate project? Perhaps it's an acquisition, perhaps it's a financing for a refurbishment, perhaps it's some sort of entitlement to revenue stream, perhaps it's just a capital gain play. But within the structure of the contracts that we are able to create, it really is down to what the market wants and what the investor is prepared to operate. The legal structures we've built allow that freedom, which is very exciting. And what we're hearing from investors is, I can't do that in the market today. I can't go and buy a product like the one you've just been explaining to me. And that for us is very exciting. Another piece of this that's really interesting is the use of the technology to automate some of the friction points that exist within financial services and the creation, sale and distribution of financially regulated products. As a law firm, we're very used to creating investment documentation and contracts that are at the core of what an investor is actually buying. However, in order to automate some of that functionality, it gets translated through the TOKO engine into a smart contract. The smart contract itself is then able to autonomously and automatically do certain things. So we've built in functionality like voting rights. We've built in functionality for capital distributions, whether they're periodic or on an exit of a particular asset. And these functionalities are going to bring a degree of efficiency to the operation of these assets and to the investor experience. Data democratization is another cornerstone of what we've been building. So as we create assets in different classes, we've also built templates. These templates create all of the different moving pieces that may be of interest. So for a piece of real estate or fine art or a wine collection, what are the things that investors want to know about in terms of this asset? And we've thought about each of these and created templates to be filled out, so that not only the owner or the issuer can actually document this, but in real time they can then provide real-time updates in terms of how's the asset performing, what happened this month, what's going to happen next month, what are the things that are coming up. And that is not only a level of transparency that perhaps many investors don't currently experience with these assets on an ongoing basis, but it's also going to substantially reduce the barrier to entry to come in and acquire these products. Because the due diligence information, the sort of information that an investor might then have to embark on the process of obtaining, is already going to be built into and freely available through the use of the blockchain technology and the data democratization functionality that's in there. Another feature of the TOKO engine is that while we are using the Hyperledger Hedera public-private hybrid core backbone within the engine, what we're also able to do is to deploy tokens through a dual smart contract model onto multiple blockchains. So we can deploy a token onto the Ethereum network. We can deploy a native Hedera token onto the Hedera network. And we are looking at a number of other platforms as well on a needs basis to ensure that we are not, we're somewhat agnostic in terms of the DLT layer into which tokens can be played. And the reason for that is not only are we not necessarily the ones that are best placed to bet on which of these platforms is going to be the home for security tokens going forward, but actually each of these platforms have their own unique technology elements. And as a result, different platforms will reflect different attributes that may suit some projects better than others. So that's the TOKO project. I want to just give an example of what we've done. On the 5th of November, we used TOKO for the first time in anger. We've been doing a lot of testing, but we actually created a digital representation of a piece of fine art. If we move over here, a group of my partners here in Hong Kong have gone through the process of commissioning a piece of artwork from Wang Xiaobo, who is a Beijing-based artist. We've now taken this piece of art and created a number of digital fragments of it. In this case, we used an ERC 721 format that allowed us to fractionalize this, but also in a non-fungible way. So each of these tokens actually has a small piece of the painting built into it, so it's actually a non-fungible token. That doesn't necessarily make a huge amount of difference in the context of an individual piece of art that's perhaps unlikely to ultimately be chopped up into pieces in real world. But it's quite interesting the debate it immediately created around the tokenomics. Well, is a piece of the painting that is more pronounced, like the horse's head, perhaps more valuable than a piece of sky? Well, not in terms of the tokenomics that have been created around it, not in terms of the rights that a token holder would have, but the debate that ensued, I think, gave us some insight into what's likely to happen as we start moving this. And imagine a situation where individual tokens represent different apartments within a high-rise apartment block, some with views of the sea, some perhaps not with, and what that might mean in terms of the ecosystem that it could create. We've thought very hard about the integration of these tokens across all of those layers, the dealer broker, the custodian, and ultimately the digital asset exchange. And we've been working with a number of players to ensure that technology integration is possible. Investor experience has been key to some of what we've been thinking about. And I'll come back and just talk through some of the different ways in which the TOKO engine has spat out these tokens and the way in which the token holders, my partners here in Hong Kong, are able to use those. So firstly, there is a software wallet. This is the Descent software wallet, and it provides a means by which you can see and access, and again, it has the pictures of your individual token built into it, and this is a way of storing your private keys on your own. There's the Descent hardware cold storage wallet, which is activated through biometrics, in this case through a fingerprint. And again, it's a cold storage wallet solution, and also integrated with the Ledger Nano, which is another means by which you can do self-storage through a privately held piece of hardware. Of course, we're all used to using things like internet banking accounts. We've also been working with custodians. In this case, here is an example of how we have deployed these art tokens onto the HexTrust platform, which allows people to access and store their tokens with a trusted third-party custodian in a way that perhaps many investors are more familiar with. Some people are extremely comfortable. Those who have been investing in cryptocurrencies, crypto assets for some time, are probably pretty comfortable with software wallets, mobile phone wallets and hardware wallets. But a lot of investors, as this goes mainstream, are unlikely to. And we are predicting that there is going to be a substantial growth in the amount of digitisation of real-world assets. And it's not just us that thinks that. At the Davos conference, the World Economic Forum predicted that by 2027, 10% of the world's GDP would be sitting on a blockchain. TOKO is our attempt to help facilitate that transition from the paper-based world to a digital world in which these things are operating. So what we've created here is an integrated information sharing platform that allows the different participants in this ecosystem to come together in a way that allows people to do these projects, attract investors, and to facilitate the promotion, sale, and ultimately the distribution of these assets through the regulated third parties who are entitled to do this in different markets around the world. From our perspective, we've created the right tool set now to do this. We've created the right ecosystem of partners that are not only increasingly able to do it from a regulatory and capability perspective, but are now ready to and willing to actually participate in the creation of this dynamic new digital capital markets. So it leaves the question, what sort of digital portfolio do you want to create? Thank you.